Hey, Fuego.
Hmm.
So after watching this one again, after all these years, did you get a little wood?
Much more birch than I expected.
Yeah, I got some mahogany. Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime and Fuego here.
And while the cold open was fun and well and good, I actually did not get mahogany this time around.
I actually did.
I know, that's the weird thing.
Reverse opposite. For
Here's
both
the
of us.
thing. We both discussed this before having rewatched it, which, by the way, John Carpenter's Vampires is what we're going to be talking about, and this was a Patreon request from Nick Oakes.
Nick, my
Thank
dude.
you very much, Nick.
Long days, pleasant nights, sir.
Yeah, indeed. Big contributor to the horror show and specifically the Hail to Stephen King crowd over there. But he requested John Carpenter's Vampires starring, Hollywood royalty, James Woods, who has
We've also got like one of the Baldwins in there. I forget
he's
which
notoriously got one of the largest dicks in Hollywood.
Really?
But you didn't know that? Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway,
Good to know. And Wood, James Wood.
James Woods, like he's got two trees put together. That's why. But anyway,
too much in
so
public.
this was early 2000s, correct? If I'm not mistaken, or was this? No, this was late 90s. This was 97.
90s, yeah,
97, I believe.
Yeah.
97, 98.
Totally late 90s. Yeah.
And
because it was before Ghosts of Mars.
Before Ghosts of Mars, but after From Dusk Till Dawn.
Just a little bit
Just
after.
a little bit after, yeah.
And honestly, I think that was one of the things that I compared this so much to From Dusk Till Dawn, which might be my favorite vampire movie. I know some people, they say, Fright Night, or they say the Catherine Bigelow one, Near Dark.
Near
right?
Dark, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or, there's like various peeps who love both of those, but I don't know. I did not like this when I saw it as a kid, but yet upon the rewatch, I appreciated it a lot more, surprisingly. And it was the opposite for you, right?
It was. I remember really liking this movie, and this time I was like, this is campy as fuck.
Yeah, but that's kind of part of its appeal. And
yeah,
part of its
it is
charm.
a little bit, but...
And it's really violent.
Some
Way
stuff I
more
just couldn't
violent
get
than I
behind.
remembered.
So there were some interesting choices made. But I think it's some of those choices that pissed me off this time around, whereas they really wowed me the first time around.
And yet what pissed me off as a kid was the fact that I just saw Blondie's butt instead of full-on boobs. Like
that's what's upset you. This movie
guys.
sucks because I didn't get to see blonde tits. So, all right. Well, let's get into it.
I was a simple creature as a kid. Come on, man.
Oh, we're all simple creatures as boys. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
So, so the movie starts off with James Woods leading a pack of vampire hunters that are
is
very
such a dope scene.
Yeah, awesome, like dope leather-bound biker vampire crew, essentially.
Cleansing the nests.
Indeed, they go around the U.S. and cleanse vampire nests using a specific technique that they've developed, where they have a winch on the front of the truck that's attached to a harpoon that someone uses a crossbow to shoot the harpoon through a vampire, and then they signal the driver who winches the vampire out into the sunlight, where they then roast.
Yeah.
Right, so they always attack these nests during the day.
Obviously.
And so the movie starts off with them attacking a nest like they've done numerous times before.
And
they're always talking about how, like, oh yeah, we're all badasses. Uh-oh, we have a new table cat.
We have a cat that's about to wants to join.
So that's gonna look really funny in the camera, but
yeah,
they probably won't even see it.
Barely.
Yeah, it depends on how I crop it afterwards.
You'll see the pause.
But anyway, so continue on if you would.
Yeah. So basically, the one thing that they realized, they're like, did we actually get the master or whatever
because there's always a master
is.
of these covens
or
groups, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, and they're pretty positive that they did not, in fact, kill it, and yet they still decide to go and be celebratory, and they've got hookers and booze, and they're there partying with the sheriff in the area, who kind of tipped them off and assisted them and whatnot, and said master shows up and proceeds to kill everybody except for Wood's character and the Baldwin character, and then he partially drains one of the hookers, and they basically save her, and she was about to get down for sexy time with James Woods before he comes and, starts drinking all her blood.
And that's the first taste of carnage that we really get outside of the dragging, the hunting of the vampires.
It's a really bloody scene, though.
Super gory.
And he just plows through all of these hunters, man. He is just...
Kitty Rose, what are you doing?
He is just killing.
What are you doing?
And so, narrowly escape, and then as they are basically on the run and this master is kind of after them, then they start to pull back the curtain a little bit, and we get some church corruption subplot type stuff, and that's really, I mean, not a lot transpires besides that, aside from, going to that remote, oh goodness, is it another church that they go to? I'm honestly trying to remember this particular
I can't remember either. They might hide out in one, but basically, is it Stephen Baldwin or?
I want to say it's Adam Baldwin, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think it's Adam Baldwin.
Well, I know
Anyway,
it's a Baldwin.
It's a Baldwin.
All the Baldwins are dead.
Nonetheless, whatever the Baldwin is, he ends up, sort of taking on the hooker as a project and trying to watch out for her and care for her.
He's got the feels for her.
He's got the big feels for her.
Yeah,
and
whereas James Woods is like, let's just kill her.
And she's slowly starting to turn throughout the movie, and it all plays into it.
They use her as the beacon to track down the master guy and so on. And
So it's actually, again, even talking about it, it was an interesting enough story for me.
Based on a novel, actually.
But it didn't...
Carpenter didn't write it, though.
It didn't all the way go through for me. Like, I lost interest at some point, although all of the gore and the fighting was fun. Like, I liked a lot of it. It's just...
I had just forgotten how violent it was, and that was what I probably appreciated the most.
We've jumped around a little bit. So the acting we're okay with. I mean, the
acting
Baldwin was a little bit weak, but
yeah, well, most of them are.
James Woods was great, and all the supporting cast were fine. I mean, for as long as they were around.
I actually thought the lead vampire was like efficiently menacing and interesting.
Yeah, the master. He was very reminiscent of the Dracula 2000 master, though. Like, that's
little bit.
They came out around the same time.
It
did.
This was a few years before.
But then Dracula 2000 was like a trilogy also. So I don't know. One was borrowing heavily from the other, but this one came out first, so it had to be that from this. But yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. It just didn't knock my socks off like it did back when I was younger, and you just didn't hate it like you did back when you were younger, right?
No, not so much. And I mean, to segue into effects, I really did think the gore and the practical, because it's not really CGI heavy at all.
No.
It is very violent in its practical nastiness, and I mean, cinematography. I like the fact that it was a vampire western of sorts, and the fact that it's like kind of a road story and everything. I thought that was kind of cool, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I love it. I'm not going to go get like the Arrow Deluxe Edition or anything of that nature. But it is one that I could actually see myself revisiting. Did you like the score and like kind of that westerny music approach that they kind of
I did actually. I did like that. I thought that added to the ambiance and the sort of atmosphere they were trying to set up for the film. I thought it worked pretty well. It starts off in such a way that, like, when you lose a majority of the cast that you're introduced to as part of the crew at the beginning, you feel like a little robbed, but then you're like, okay, I better settle in with these two remaining characters we have. And you do. It's just an adjustment.
And they're the two biggest names, obviously, so it pretty much makes sense that it would zero in upon them and just kind of let it be their story in a lot of ways.
I'm just used to ensemble movies, like...
Well,
the ensemble stays around for longer nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 15 minutes into the movie, and they like kill pretty much the entirety of the cast except for a couple of people, and you're just like, okay, well, there you go. And they were a fun-loving bunch, and they were definitely legit badass. I still, like, back when I watched this as a kid, I felt like the movie just got slow and boring after the first 20 minutes. Which really,
like, once everyone else dies, it's really tough.
Yeah, well, not a lot happens after that until the finale.
It is a slow build.
It is.
It's a track down movie. It's not unlike Bone Tomahawk in that way, though. And there's another, there's another movie we're about to review that. Taylor. Yeah, we're about to review another movie that's along the Bone Tomahawk lines too. But before we get there, let's just wrap this one up. Any final words on John Carpenter's Vampires? Would you recommend it to people nowadays?
Yeah, I would. I mean, if it came down to it, watch From Dusk Till Dawn. But
true.
I mean,
true. But if you have a list,
bad.
if you have a list of all the '90s vampires movies, this one would probably be in the top 10.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah,
I would concur with you there, sir.
So, all right. Well, why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below if you have particular thoughts on John Carpenter's Vampires. Again, thank you to Nick Oakes for recommending this for our Patreon people. If you are a patron, thank you very much for supporting the channel that way. If you're not yet, the link is in the description box down below. If you'd like to be, you can request us to do movies just like this one.
Tell us what to do.
If you'd rather, though, you can just go down and like the video. We greatly appreciate that as well. And subscribe if you want to come back and see more reviews like this. But until then, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias a Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.